Today we'll see how to create an universe on top of SAP. Thing is, Shiva is not a join. Once he join, then we'll see the exercise. What exercise? But today we'll see how to make an universe on top of SAP by using SAP integration kit with business objects. By using SAP integration kit with Boho. So, fortunate or unfortunate, my BO XIR4 is not integrated with SAP.
Muted.
How to integrate a BO with SAP by using BO XIR3. Uh, let's connect with my let me connect with my server. I'm just connecting with my server. I'm just connecting with my server. See, now today we'll see how to create an universe on top of SAP. I hope you know the mandatory requirement for creating universe on top of SAP is you need SAP software and you need SAP installation in the local, as well as you need a BO installation, as well as you need an integration kit between SAP and BO, SAP and business objects. If you have a SAP installation, if you have a business objects installation, and if you have integration kit between SAP and BO, SAP integration kit BO, then you can comfortably create a universe on top of SAP. On top of SAP. I hope you know in SAP, when you talk about non-SAP, we have a OLTP systems, different OLTP databases, and later the ETL team will take data from different OLTP systems and they will integrate into big database called as a data warehouse. Big database called as data warehouse. Same way in SAP, they have a different OLTP systems. Later, the ETL team will use BW as a ETL tool, and they'll take all data and they'll load into a big database called as the business warehouse or InfoCube or multi-provider or InfoSet. They have a different naming conventions. In non-SAP, we call as a data warehouse. In SAP, they call it as a business warehouse. Normally, when you talk about data warehouse contains all departmental data. It contains all organization data. For example, you have a source 1, source 2, source 3, source 4. You have a OLTP system 1, OLTP system 2, OLTP system 3. The data you are getting for OLTP system 1 through website is order and cancellation. Source 2 also you are getting order and cancellation. Source 3 also you are getting order and cancellation. Later, the BW team will take, if they are loading order and cancellations into one place, that means all data from three sources into one place, that we call as a business warehouse. Sometimes based on convenience, they will take only orders from source 1, orders from source 2. Source 1 means website, source 2 means outlet, source 3 means telephonic. What are the orders they got to website, telephonic, as well as outlet, they'll take and they'll load into a small database called as the small database called as the InfoCube, that contains only that subject oriented data. InfoCube. And cancellation they will take into all three sources and they will load into other cube is called as the other small database is called as the other InfoCube, that we call as a cancellation InfoCube. Cancellation InfoCube. I don't care. We need not to care about the data where it is there. If the data is there in the business warehouse, if the data is there in InfoCube, multi-provider, InfoSet or BexQuery, from BO comfortably you can connect with that and you can make your reports. You can make your reports. But creating InfoCube, and creating, business warehouse, creating Bex query is not our scope. Whatever the database the SAP guys give, you need to connect from your system and create a report. That is our role. Connecting from BO to SAP and generating reports is our role. Now assume you have a InfoCube. You have a InfoCube as a backend data source, and you have a BO software in your local system. InfoCube is from SAP, and BO, BO you have a BO software. If you want to create a report on top of InfoCube, if you want to create a report on top of InfoCube, WebI report on top of InfoCube. If you want to create a WebI report in R3, the mandatory is you need a Universe. It's mandatory you need to have a Universe between your reporting tool and the data target database. Now our target database is InfoCube and you have a BO report. If you want to create a BO report on target database called as InfoCube, you need to create a Universe between your report and the target database. For that, for that, you need an integration kit software. Why they need an integration between BO and SAP? But when you talk about Oracle, Sybase, MySQL, for that you need not install any integration kit. Once you install your BO, once you install Oracle client, compatibly you can communicate from BO to Oracle by using Oracle client with the drivers, Oracle drivers. The reason is Oracle have a structured query language. BO can understand structured query language. When you talk about SAP BI BO, SAP have a MDX and BO can understand structured query language. So in backend you have some language and front end will generate some other language. For converting your SQL into MDX, MDX into SQL, you need an integration kit between BO and SAP. BO and SAP. That's why you need an integration kit BO and SAP. But for other databases, you need not to create any integration kits. You can directly communicate if you have a BO client, if you have that database client. For example, if you want to create a BO Universe on Sybase, you need to install BO client in the local, Sybase client in the local, so that you can directly communicate from BO to Sybase by using Sybase drivers in the BO. While installing BO, you'll get all drivers. When you install BO, you'll get all drivers, so that you can use Sybase driver to connect with the Sybase database. Now, let me start to create a BO on Universe on top of SAP InfoCube. If you want to create a BO Universe on SAP InfoCube, the very first step is you need a BO installation. Yes, when you see here, I have a business objects installation. That's why I have a designer. A designer I'll use for creating a Universe. And you need an integration kit software. So when you see here, you have an integration kit also. Business objects exe integration kit for SAP solution. Now you can directly talk with the query, InfoSet and Noble SQL drivers for sample reports. So when you install this, you'll get all this, so that you can communicate with all InfoSets as well as Bex queries. Okay, that means you have a BO installation as well as you have an integration kit installation. And you have a business explorer. This is from SAP. Oh, that means you have a SAP installation also. SAP installation also in the local. That means you have SAP BO as well as integration kit. All three softwares you have installed. That is fine. And very next step is you need to go to SAP Management Console. Once you have SAP Management Console, if you need to go to SAP Management Console and you need to start all SAP servers. That is mandatory. Okay, assume my SAP servers is up and running because I'm accessing from remote. In the remote system, it's 24/7, it's up and running. SAP. The very next step, you need to go to CCM. You need to go to CCM, Central Configuration Manager in BO. You need to go to CCM, Central Configuration Manager, and you need to start your Apache Tomcat as well as Server Intelligent Agents. I just started my Server Intelligent agents. So it is running and SI is running. That means now I have a SAP installation, I have a BO installation, I have an integration kit, and my SAP is up and running, and my BO is up and running. I have all necessary softwares as well as and my BO and as well as I have all necessary softwares as well as all my required servers are up and running. Now it is very compatible for you to create an universe on SAP with the help of the softwares. But before moving to the SAP BI/BO, you know how they will create a user accounts in SAP BI/BO. Generally, in SAP BI/BO, they will create a user accounts in SAP by using basis system. SAP have a separate admin console is called as a basis system. BO have a separate admin console called as a CMC, Central Management Console. If they want to create any user accounts in SAP, they will use basis system to create a user accounts. In SAP BI/BO, first they will create a user account in SAP's. Whatever the user accounts required, they will create all in the SAP, and later what the BO administrator will do, the BO administrator will import all the users and they will provide access for the BO. They'll provide access for the BO. For example, assume you have a 10 users in SAP. 10 users in SAP. The 10 users already SAP basis guy created by using basis system. So that means the 10 users have access for SAP. Now if you want to give access for the 10 users in BO, that means whatever the reports you are creating in the BO, if you want to provide access for the 10 users, what you need to do is, from your CMC, you need to connect with the basis system and import the 10 users and provide access for the BO. So that time, the 10 users will get access in SAP as well as BO. That users we call as a single sign-on users, SSO users. That means one user have access on both the systems, SAP as well as BO, with the same user account password. That we call as a SSO, single sign-on. The first step for SAP BI/BO is single sign-on. But single sign-on is not your role. It is your administrator role. Once you join in the SAP BI/BO project, the basis guy will create a user account for you in the backend. Then later, the administrator will import into the BO. Then administrator will provide access for the BO. So that time already you have SAP. Now they imported into BO and BO access, so that you can access both SAP BO with the same user account. That time your user account they call as the single sign-on user account, SSO user account. Now let me show how to make a single sign-on between SAP and BO. If you want to make a single sign-on between, assume I have a few users in the SAP, that users I want to access and provide access for the BO. Then go to Business Objects Enterprise. There you have a Central Management Console. You just need to connect with the Central Management Console. Once you are there in CMC, you need to connect the CMC with the admin login credentials. You cannot connect CMC with the developer user account. Only administrator have access for the CMC. That's why single sign-on is not the developer role, it's your administrator role. Once you connected with the CMC, you just need to go to Authentication tab. Once you are there in Authentication tab, you just need to double click on SAP. Once you double click on SAP, you just need to enter all SAP login credentials here. All SAP login credentials. For example, you are trying to import a users from dev system. You need to enter dev system, SAP dev system name, client 001, and application server name SAP dev, and system number 03. and username password for that SAP system. This all anyway the basis guy will give this detail to the administrator. So based on the information, the administrator will enter this login credentials here to connect with the SAP. Once they entered all SAP login credentials in the screen, they'll click on update. Once they click on update, then from the CMC, now administrator connected with the backend SAP, they connected with the backend SAP. That is fine. Now once they connected in the backend SAP, they'll get a roles and users and roles. In BO normally, once you created user accounts, you'll create a group and you'll associate users to the group. Normally what we did in the CMC is we created users and then we created groups and we associated users to the groups. Later we provided the access for the groups and folder. Already folders have a reports, so that when you provide a group access for one folder, so that every user will get access on that particular folder. That you have done in the BO. Same way in SAP, how they will create a users, they will create a users in the basis, then they will create a role for then users they will associate with the role. For example, you have 10 users, you have a one role, 10 users if you have assigned to one role, and for one role you give access for different applications and different folders. All 10 users will get a same application, same folder access. That is your role access. If you give role access, automatically the users will get that particular application and folder access. That's your role access. Okay, now fine. You got your role and application access. Same way, when you see in basis, you connected with the basis system. This particular SAP basis system with this username, this login credentials. Then administrator go to role import. Once they go to role import, they can see all the available roles. Name or password is not correct. Okay, now see, it connected with the backend. Once it connected with the backend, you can see all the user accounts there in the backend, and as well as their roles. Means fewer users, fewer groups. But I don't know what is a user here, what is a group here, because with the naming convention I cannot understand. That's why. But who knows this? Who knows about these users and roles? The basis guy knows about these users and roles. Then the basis guy will give a knowledge on these users and roles for the administrator of BO. So based on the basis guy KT, the administrator can understand what users and what roles they have, and based on the basis guy request, the administrator of BO will provide a BO access. For example, the basis guy requested to provide access for this particular group. Then they'll take and add this particular user. So they'll take and add. And same way, if the access required for this particular role, yes, they'll take that particular role and they'll click on add. That means now you are importing these 3 roles from SAP to BO. You imported the roles. Then you need to go to SNC settings. You need to go to SNC settings. Then here you need to enable authentication. Why you need to enable authentication? You know, now users are created in SAP, but you are importing into BO and you are providing for BO access. Now, whenever that user connected BO system with their user account, but that user account will be there in SAP, that means that created in SAP. So whenever they connected from BO to BO, whenever they enter a user account in the BO application, that will go and authenticate in SAP because that is created in SAP. But when you create a user account with the CMC, that time that will be stored in the BO repository. That time the authentication is enterprise authentication. But now the story is different. User is there in SAP. You just imported and provided BO access. Whenever user connected with the BO application, that authentication is happening in SAP. So reason is the user is created in SAP. So it will be authenticated in SAP. That we call as a SAP authentication. That you call as SAP authentication. So that's why authentication. Then go to options. Go to options. There you need to enable automatically import users. For example, there is a user. There's 11th user they created. Now 10 users they have the associated with the respective roles. 11th user they created in the backend. That 11th user they associate with the same role. So that time that is automatically need to import into the BO. That is the case you need to put automatically import users. And next, concurrent and named users. Now whatever the roles you imported, whoever user associated with that role, that all users will behave as a concurrent users in the BO. If you put named users, that time that users will be as a named users in the BO. What do you mean by named? What do you mean by concurrent? If you make one user as a concurrent, that time that user can share their username password to other users and all other users can access the BO at the same time. When you talk about named user, when you create one user account and make named user, only that user can access the BO with his username and password. At a time, one user can connect BO with the same username password, that is a named user. Concurrent means at a time, multiple users can connect with the same user account password. For example, you have a sample user. Username is sample. That username sample, you gave it to 10 people. If 10 people at a time are accessing BO with the sample, that you call as a concurrent. When you make sample user as a named, and if you distributed sample user to 10 people, at a time, one can connect with the system, remaining 9 cannot connect, that is a named user. So based on the requirement, please select either named or concurrent. Click on update. So that's all. Now you imported all the users, all the required roles into BO. That roles you can see in users and groups. When you go to users and groups, when you go to users and groups, when you go to users and roles, you can see the imported roles. Whatever the roles you imported, that will be appeared as when you go to group list. Whatever the roles you imported, that all will be applied, that all will be replicated as user group. When you see here, that all will be replicated as user group. When you go to user list, so if you have imported any user from the SAP, that will be appeared as a user. But now you imported roles, that's why all the roles is appearing as a groups in the BO. Yes, that's fine. You connected CMC and you enter your required SAP login credentials. So you are communicating from BO to SAP. So then you can see whatever the user accounts and roles there in the backend. Then that roles and users you imported into the BO to provide a BO access. Yes, now imported. The users now appearing in the BO. Very next step is you need to provide access for these users and groups on folders and applications. How you provide access for these users or groups and BO? You just need to go to folders, need to select the folder. If you want to provide access for this particular folder, dashboards, you just need to right click You just need to right click. There you have a user security, add principals. Then if you want to provide access for this particular role, then select that particular role. Click on add and assign security. Then select the required security. I want to give view access for this user. Yes, I selected view access. Click on apply. Click on apply. Click on OK. That means now for these two groups, you provided a view access in Vivo. You provided a view access on Vivo. That users are created in the backend. Now you imported and you provided the view access. So that users will get a view access in Vivo site. That is a way you can provide a access for them. We will do this, in the real time. This is not your role. This is your administrator role. The administrator will connect and the administrator will import the users or roles. They will provide access and folders. Now I imported all the roles, all users, required users and required roles, and I provided access for the dashboards folders. Same way you can provide access for them in the Vivo. That means you call it as a single sign-on. Now these two users have a single this users whatever I imported have a single sign-on Vivo and SAP with same user account and password. They can connect with the Vivo and SAP, but wherever they connected, if they connected from Vivo with same username password, the system will go and authenticate in SAP. If you connect with SAP also, that will be go and authenticate in SAP. The reason is that user accounts they created in SAP, not in Vivo. We just imported and provided access. So whenever they connected Vivo, still the user accounts exist in the SAP. It will go to SAP and it will check in SAP. So that is a way you can make single sign-on. That is fine. You make single sign-on. Till now what we did is we installed SAP, we installed Vivo, we installed integration kit, and we started the SAP servers and we started Vivo servers, and we have an integration kit, and we completed single sign-on between Vivo and SAP. Fine. These are all mandatory for SAP BI Vivo. If you are joined in the project, first see whether you have SAP installation or not, and see whether you have a Vivo installation or not, and later once you have all this, later you need to ask the administrator to complete single sign-on. Once they completed single sign-on, then you can compatibly create a universes on top of SAP. Now our next story is we'll see how to create a universe on top of SAP. We'll see how to create a universe on top of SAP. We'll see how to create a universes on top of SAP. Now, if you want to create a universe on top of SAP, again same story. You need to go to, we have a tool name called as the designer. We need to go to designer. In the designer, you need to enter your server name, your username and password. Now I entered my dev server name as well as my username. Then you need to click on OK. If you want to create a new universe, you need to go to File, New. File, New, and you need to give the name of the universe. I'm just giving a name of the universe as sample SAP Vivo. And if you're connecting with the SAP to take a SAP as a data source, you just need to click on New, click on Next. There you need to give your connection name. connection name. Then you need to navigate for your SAP drivers. SAP drivers. Yes, I navigated for SAP drivers. Click on next. Then you need to enter your SAP username password. I'm just entering my SAP username password. Click on next. When you click on next, it will display the available cubes there in SAP. It will display available cubes there in SAP. Then you need to navigate for your required cube there in SAP. So we have a lot of cubes in SAP. So based on your requirement, you need to select your cube name. In the real time, the SAP guy will give, ETL guy will give a login credentials, as well as they'll give a KT on the available info cubes. Let me take any one info cube. Some info cube. Then let me take this particular info cube. Test connection. Yes, whatever the login credentials I entered, that right, and I'm communicating with the cube name. Click on next. Click on next. Click on finish. That means you gave sample SAP BO as a universe name, and connection you created as sample SAP BO. The connection type is secured. For info cube as a demo cube. Yes, once you gave the name of the universe, once you created the connection, just click on OK. Once you click on OK, you can import all the objects whatever there in the backend. Now you imported all the objects whatever there in the backend. Then you can see classes and objects whatever there in the info cube. But when you talk about normal relational data warehouses, when you create a connection between your universe designer and relational data warehouses, you can import tables, and then you can make a joins, then you can create a classes and objects. When you talk about info cubes, when you create a connection between your universe and the info cube, in the info cube level, they have already classes and objects, not tables. Only they have a classes and objects. The reason is, whatever you have done in universe, whatever the tables in the universe, generally imported tables for relational data warehouse, you'll import a tables and you'll need to make a joins, then we resolve a loop, then we create a classes and objects. This process already they have done in the info cube level. They imported tables, they created joins, they converted as a classes and objects. So when you connect from BO, you cannot see the classes and objects, you cannot see tables and joins. You can see only classes and objects there in the info cube. But when you connect from BO, in the data warehouse side, they have a tables, you can see only tables, they don't have a classes and objects. That's why you are creating classes and objects in BO universe. But when you talk about SAP, already they have a classes and objects. When you connect from BO universe to info cube, you can see classes and objects. You cannot import any tables because in the backend you don't have a tables. Yes, that's fine. Whatever the classes and objects you have in the SAP, that is imported into the BO. Once you imported it to the BO, then very next step is you need to click on save. When you click on save, it will save in the local system. Now you need to go to File, Export, Browse. For that particular universe folder, click on OK. Again, click on OK. Click on OK. Click on OK. That means you created universe now on InfoCube and you exported that universe to the server. It is very, very, very easy. Creating universe on SAP source is cakewalk. You need not to use your brain. But non-SAP case, you need to import one by one table and you need to make a joins. That all. But when you talk about SAP BO, you need not to use your brain. Just make a connection between your universe and the info cube. Automatically classes and objects is imported that you can reuse for building your report. Now, let me connect this particular universe from the reporting tool to create a report. I'm connecting with the business objects, info view, to create a report. Log on to info view, go to document list. Once you went to document list, if you want to create a new report, go to new web intelligence document. Once you are there in your web intelligence document, you just need to select your universe. Our universe name is sample SAP BO. When you click on sample SAP BO, you can see all the objects whatever you imported from SAP. Just drag and drop that objects into BO. Then let me take later I'll explain what is key figure, what is characteristics. Then click on run query. Oh, I think you don't have any data in the backend. Sorry, you don't have a data for this cube. If you have a data, then let me take run query. Not assigned. You don't have a data. That is. Let me take customer. No, I don't have any data. I'm sorry. It says you don't have any data. If you have a data, you can see the data in the report level. Anyway, later we'll see this. Don't worry. Once you created your universe on InfoCube, you can see the data. You can see data for that particular report. You can run a report. Then the process is same. Creating WebI report is same on top of SAP. Just you need to drag and drop the required objects into this side. Then you can run it will make a query. Then you can run a query. You can see the data. That is same. But before this, I want to explain what is L001, what is L00, and why some objects in the blue color and why some objects in the pink color. You have some objects in the pink color, pink, and some objects when you see that will be in the green color. I hope you know in SBO we have a three kind of objects. We have a three kind of objects in the BO. Number one is called as dimension. Number two is called as a measure, and number three is called as a detail, and number four is called as a condition. Same way, when you talk about dimension will communicate with the alphanumerics, characters, and date columns there in a database. When you talk about measures is a replica of numeric calculated column. Detail object, when you talk about detail object is a replica of descriptive text or comments. And when you talk about condition, if you have any requirement for all reports with the same condition, you have a same condition for all reports. If required a same condition for all reports, that time you just need to create a one condition in the BO, universe that you can replicate for all the reports. That you can replicate for all the reports in all the reports. That you call as a global condition. Same way in SAP also, they have a characteristic. Characteristic is a replica of alphanumeric, character, and as well as date. That is their characteristic. Whatever the characteristics you have in the backend, that will be imported as a dimensions into BO, dimension objects into BO. Whatever the key figures they have in backend, that will be redirected as a measures in the BO. Key figure means numeric calculated value. They have a different naming conventions, and BO have a different naming conventions. BO have a dimensions, SAP have a characteristics. BO have a measures, SAP have a key figures. Whatever the key figures you have a backend, you'll get as a measures in BO. Whatever the display attributes, that means objects which are associated with the dimensions, they call as a detailed objects. In BO you call as they call as a display attributes. In BO you call as a detailed objects. Detailed objects always in the green color. That means, and whatever the restrictions they created in the backend, that will be appear as a global conditions in BO. The global conditions you can see in the conditions pane. If you don't have any conditions, you cannot see any conditions. If you have any conditions, you can see here. Okay, now when you talk about SAP BI BO, when you create a universe on top of SAP, whatever the characteristics they have in SAP, that will be converted as a dimensions in BO. Whatever the key figures they have in SAP, that will be converted as a measures in BO. Whatever display attributes they have in SAP, that will be converted as detail object. Whatever the display attributes they have in SAP, that will be converted as detail object. Whatever the restrictions they have in the backend, that will be converted as global conditions in BO. So that's why you are getting blue color. When you see blue color in BO, that is a characteristic in the backend. Whenever you see the object with the green color, that will be a display attribute in the backend. Whenever you see object in the pink color in BO, that is basically a key figure in the backend that we call as a measure. Okay, that's fine. You have seen the object comparisons. Then very next step is when you see L01 customer and L00 customer. For each object, you have a two kind of naming conventions, L00 and L01. What do you mean by L00? What do you mean by L01? When you drag and drop L01 and required build quantity into the report, you'll get detailed records. What do you mean by detailed records? You'll get customer 1 build quantity, customer 2 next build quantity, customer 3 next build quantity. That means you'll get each customer details. You'll get each customer details. When you drag and drop L00 customer and build quantity, that time you'll get all customers their respective total build quantity. That means you'll get only one record, that is for all customers, and build quantity will be aggregated for all customers, sum of C1, C2, C3, C4. That all build quantity you will get in one record. That you call as the aggregate record. L01 is for summer detail. L00 is for aggregated record. Aggregated record. That you will get in a SAP BO. Okay, now you are very clear. When you create a universe on top of InfoCube, you'll get three kind of objects. Four kind of objects. Dimensions. All characteristics will be converted as a dimensions. All key figures will be converted as measures. All display attributes will be converted as into BO as a display attributes all converted into detail objects. All restrictions in the backend will be converted as global conditions into BO. And again, when you talk about any dimension, we have a two kind of dimension values, L00 dimension, L01 dimension. L00 is for aggregate, L01 is for detailed data. There's a way you'll get an object from SAP to BO. Then you can save and export this universe, and you can create a multiple number of reports on top of this universe. Whatever the reports you created, that will communicate with the SAP InfoCube by using integration kit software. There's a way you can make your own universe on top of InfoCube to create a reports. The next agenda is, we'll see, yes, we talked about how to create an universe on top of SAP. But if you want to apply a customization, for example, you want to make a condition on customer. If you want to make a condition on customer in the InfoCube level, they cannot allow us to make a condition because InfoCube is created by ETL team. You cannot make a condition on top of InfoCube. They don't allow us from reporting side. But if you want to make a condition in the universe, you can make a condition. But if you want to make a condition in the universe, in the where class, you need to write your MDX code. When you see your, this we call as the MDX, multi-dimensional expression language. When you see normal universes, relational universes which is mapped at the tables, let me import a related in relational universe. When you see relational universes, you have a, when you open an object, it will display like table dot column name. This is very easy. This is our structure query language. But when you talk about SAP, all object definitions, you can see with the tags, multi-dimensional tags, not with table dot column. This is a MDX. If you know MDX, you can write a condition here. If you don't know MDX, you cannot write a conditions. But fortunate or unfortunate, most of them doesn't know what is MDX. Doesn't know what is MDX. So that time it's very difficult to make a conditions. And for example, you have a build quantity, or you have a sales revenue. You want a sales revenue and you want an actual sales revenue. For example, you assume you have two key figures. One is sales revenue, second one is margin price. If you want to make an actual sales revenue, actual sales revenue is always combination of always that you can calculate the formula, that is sales revenue minus margin price. If you want to create an object with the actual sales revenue with the formula, that time also you need to write a MDX code, because in universe you can see only MDX code. That time you need to create a one particular object in the key figures. That object name you need to give actual sales, and actual sales is with the sales revenue minus margin price. But you don't have a table. The select class right arrows is disabled. If you know MDX, you can write MDX here. But I don't know how to write MDX. That's very difficult for us to make an object. And when you talk about relational data warehouse, simply we'll click on select class right arrows. We'll select the table name, column name. It will write a code. But here you don't have that option. So that means it's very difficult to create an object in the SAP BO. That's why they recommended if you want to write any calculations, if you want to make any conditions, if you want to write any prompts, don't make a condition, don't make a filter, don't make a prompt in BO universe level. That is very difficult, because you need to write a MDX code. You cannot automate your coding process. So that's why what they recommended, if you need any data from InfoCube, please create a BEX query. In the BEX query, it's very easy to create a condition, to create formula, to create a filters, to create a variables. Variables means prompts. In the BEX query, you can create it with the drag and drop. So that's why they recommended, if you want to create a universe on InfoCube, create a BEX query on the InfoCube and make your required formulas, make your required filters, make your calculations, Then later you need to connect from Universe to Bex query so that you'll get all the objects with the formulas and calculations as per your request. That time you need not to write MDX code, it will automatically convert MDX code. That will simplify your job. So that's why most of the projects, when you see in the real time, the universes always will execute on top of Bex query, not on InfoCube. The reason is, if you create a universe on InfoCube, if you want to filter for all the reports based on customer, that filter you need to create in the universe. If you want to create a filter in the universe, you need to know MDX code. That's why what you need to do is, instead of directly creating universe on InfoCube and writing MDX in the universe, create one Bex query on top of InfoCube and drag and drop the objects into the Bex query and make your formulas, required formulas in the Bex query. Then that you need to take as a source for your universe, create a connection between your universe and that Bex query. That simplifies your job. So now the story for SAP BIBO is, hello, are you there? The story for SAP BIBO is, always you need to create a universe on top of Bex query, not on directly InfoCube. If you have a requirement to take data from InfoCube, please first create a Bex query, then create a universe on top of Bex query. That is the recommended method. Now you are going to see how to make an universe on top of Bex, how to create an Bex query on top of InfoCube, and how to create a universe on top of Bex query. Now I am going to explain how to make an universe by using Bex query. First I will show how to create a Bex query on InfoCube. Then I'll explain you how to make formulas, how to make conditions, how to make prompts in the Bex query. Then I'll show you how to create a universe on top of Bex query. First I'll explain a Bex query, then I'll explain about BO universe.